it is really important for us to see that there is that need to marry agriculture and tourism, even from a government standpoint, so that it can actually really bring more revenue in, to help build whatever infrastructure and other things that the community and the various people need. A sea view, an ocean view, so you can literally see the ocean from where I'm at. So I want to set it that you can actually see the ocean down there.
Wow, wow. Tell me, which ocean
So
is that?
this is the jackfruit. It's not bearing, but there's a bigger one. I've got a bigger tree on the other side that, it bears fruits that are up to even 80 pounds. Now, the jackfruit is very um, widely used in Jamaica. The leaf of life. I don't know if you guys, when we were small, we used to write the name of the girl that we like, and we put it in a book, and we say if it grows, then that means, our relationship would grow.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's conversation. We are here again. We are supposed to be here all the time talking about storytelling, leveraging the power of storytelling. Exactly, that is what it is. And again, we are touching on tourism, agri-tourism, and looking at how we are able to tell our story and how we are able to use that to also promote local development. In fact, this make me remember in 2010, I wrote a book that I titled "Under Development in Africa, My Hands Are Clean." That book talk about, of course, the book is a research. There were a lot of it that talk about politics, the decision that we are taking that is not leading to development in Africa. But I remember at the point I was actually talking about local development. At the time, I was talking about the fact that when we talk about local development, it must be about the local resources and the need of the people, which is to say that we must be able to use local resources to meet the need of the people. So I think this is going to be important conversation today, looking at it from that optic, looking at it from that point of view. There are a lot of resources in Africa and the African diaspora. Of course, we will also hear from your son, who will be giving us an experience from Sekis and Neves just now. And we'll be hearing from Jay too. And we'll be hearing from some other persons who are joining us in the conversation, looking at it from where they are. And because local development must be related to the local people, must be related to the people and their way of life, what they need, what they want to survive by. So let me just quickly touch on a few things as we move on. I'm not going to spend much time here, believe me. So yeah, today, like I said, it's about promoting local development and tourism. And of course, this is part of our series on develop on agri-tourism and our hospitality. And this is all about the good things. Well, you already know about me, so I'm not going to be bothering you about that. So what I just want to say, point out, is that it is important that we understand that by talking about tourism, talking about our culture, we're just talking about our heritage, talking about the value that we have around us that we can leverage for our own development. Because development is not about using our resources to satisfy some people out there, which was the model that we will see during colonialism now. In that they look at a piece of land and say, this one will serve us as a people somewhere in Europe. So it doesn't really matter whether you like it or not, but you just need to work to satisfy the metropole, which is the bigger economy in Europe. So I think that is a kind of a wrong way to look at local development. Local development must be using the local resources to meet the need of the local people. But sometimes it can also be, why not, to also export. But even when we are exporting, it must always be to meet the need of the people so that you can become good steward of the land. And by doing that, we are making sure that we are leaving posterity. We are making sure that we are creating a balance. Because we understand now that whatever we do have a reverberating effect. If you don't have a good understanding between you and the land, you can destroy it. I remember in the book I was making mention of before, with the development in Africa, my hands are clean. I was making a very good analogy, a very simple one actually. I was saying, let's look at, for example, the Niger Delta of Nigeria, where you have at the time there was about 120, about 21 million people occupying the land. But this is a land that have been overly abused by the oil exploring company, mostly American and the European oil company. And I said, there is a relationship that we need to understand here. Say maybe, for example, Share BP, which of course was accused of polluting the land, which then lead to the death of Kesaro Wiwa, the famous Ogoni man who was fighting for ecological justice of the Niger Delta. He was killed in 1991, sorry, that year in 1991 by the Nigerian military head of state. So I was saying, let's see how we might be able to relate with nature. If Share BP was a Nigerian company coming from the Niger Delta, the people that run Share BP will know that by polluting this land, they are destroying their land. Therefore, they will never make that decision. They will do everything to make sure that they don't destroy their land. And I said, let's flip that story around. Let's flip it around. Let's Share BP find that land in England, find oil in England. Will they destroy it the way they destroyed the Niger Delta? I say again, it is no. Because they know that whatever they are doing in the land, they are going to reap the repercussion of it. I said, it is important that we see local development from the point of view of the local people, those who are directly involved in it, so that it's a mathematics of what we see around us in relation to what we need, so that we are taking the resources to make our life better, and we are also a good steward of the land where we are getting the resources from. So of course, I did make a little bit of presentation. I'm not going to go on with that because then it's going to stay a little bit longer. But what I'm trying to say here is that even when we are talking about tourism, talking about the resources that is available for us to be able to operate in the world, it must be about the local people. That is why I intentionally put in local resources. If there is any economic model that we take a resources from the land without caring about that land because we want to satisfy some need somewhere, that is an exploitation, and that is not what we want to promote. We want to promote the idea that when I take something from this land, I will be sure that I don't destroy this land because I am sitting on this land, I am standing on this land. Therefore, I must have a way of balancing my relationship with the land so that my improvement depends on the improvement of the land too. Because if not, if I destroy the land, I have nowhere to stand. It is not rocket science. It is just simple thinking to understand that local development should not destroy where we are taking the resources from. And of course, we're able to understand that if we put the local people at the center of the conversation, and of course, I think that is what we also consider today when we are talking about tourism, because tourism should also be sustainable. That the type of tourism we are talking about should not just be mass tourism that wipe out the local culture because we want to bring in people to come and be walking around and all of that. We need to be sustainable in our idea. We need to be sustainable in our approach in everything we do, not only in tourism, but also in agriculture, in economy, in commerce, in our politics, in the way we philosophize about life. It must be to protect us, protect also the land where we live so that we will be able to survive. So yes, I thank all of you that are joining us in the conversation today. Jay Pasqua, who is a storytelling expert. Jay have a book where, of course, I told you that we're going to be talking about it just now. We're going to be having an episode on that. Then, of course, we also have your son who is joining us from Sekesa Neve.
I want to just say it. There was a community um, garden competition last year, and it emerged the champion in the orchard and beautiful, very beautiful orchard type, home garden competition. So that just well, okay. So on this side, which I am seeking to turn into a agro-tourism product where folks can actually come and visit and be a sort of chill spot, lounge area, farm lounge area. On here we have a wide array of things. We have some coconuts or dwarf jellies. We've got mangoes. We've got sourshops, guavas. We've got pomegranates. We've got wax apples. We have um, jujube. Uh, we also have some okra in the field, bananas. But right now, mangoes is basically so we got breadfruit, breadnut, sugar apple. I'm just like thinking off of my head because there's so many different things here, and that's just on the fruit side of things. Now, this brings me to a project also that I'm working on presently. So this is in collaboration with this. This is going to be a part of the manifestation of this because in the conversation that Jay had a bit earlier, it sort of got me to highlight part of what I am doing. Now, one of the projects that I'm doing right now is a 10,000 fruit tree plant project that I want to be able to complete by the end of this year. So I want to be able to complete 10,000 fruit trees. And one of the reasons for this is part of what the conversation was a bit earlier, how we are losing a lot of, um, our indigenous foods and things like that. So and in terms of food security on a whole. Now, I opt to deal with fruit trees because I know that fruit trees can span generations. So one of the reasons for me is, as I was pointing out, that on the other side is where my family grew up, and I watched my dad planted a lot of these fruit trees that are now in existence that he's passed and gone, and I am able here now to eat from them, and his grandchildren and great grandchildren are able to eat from them. And so I'm thinking, if we are able to do this, and if we begin to think like this, many more of us begin to think like this. We, in the next maybe 10, 20 years, should not have a food security crisis or food sovereignty crisis, because this would be a direct effort in terms of seeking to get back or maintaining our food sovereignty, where we would be in control of what we eat and where we get what we eat and how we eat, because we're able to have these trees around us. Some of these mango trees that I'm eating from, actually, I just picked two beautiful mangoes that I was going to snack on, um, from a tree that my dad planted some years ago. And so it's not just like I'm saying, it's not just talking about it. It's actually being able to see it that helps me to want to be able to manifest it and being able to have other people see that they can do this as well. So instead of having just maybe decorative plants in your garden, you could have edible landscapes. You could have beautiful gardens with beautiful things that you can eat, whether it's passion fruit, whether it's guavas, whether
All
it's
right.
guinea, whether it's
Yes, sir.
soursop, whether
It's
it's
your turn.
papayas,
You were
um,
fighting with
so,
technology before,
okras and
so I think you have
sorrel. Some of these
overcome now.
plants, they do bear
So yeah,
beautiful
go
flowers.
on, please. Take
When
it
they
on and share with us what is
turning
happening
into
where you
fruits,
are.
so you can also use them as decorative gardens. So what I want to do with this space is be able to showcase that and have people be able to come experience, walking through the farm and picking some mangoes off the trees and eating some wax apple. Now, another.
Yeah, um, Obehi, first off, Yasan, jobless, Rastafari.
Yes,
I,
all
I,
right.
I appreciate it, man. I hear you. I see the fruits. I hear about the fruits. Obehi, I grew up with some of the same fruits. Like I said, in our previous conversation, we share this historical past, the Caribbean and the Pacific. We were colonized, right? And we were supplanted and taken from our homeland. And some of the fruits that he's talking about were also introduced to us as well, and vice versa, right? And so, when he talks about coconut and when he talks about papaya and okra, and I just get hungry and I get hungry and I reminisce about my childhood and growing up. Oh my gosh, growing up with this, and I think in the last conversation, um, you were talking about someone was talking about in Africa, the uh, wine, right? The palm wine, and I grew up with palm wine. We call it tuba in our part of the world. Oh, soursop! Oh my gosh!
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking you for a little walk, and this is on one side, and then so in between here is going to be cultivated, and I want you to realize as well, because I'm going to like put a deck and uh, juice bar on this side, so we could have eventually some maybe karaoke and a 420 lounge, a cannabis lounge, where we can sit and enjoy the beauty. And I'm going to show you that I actually have a sea view, an ocean view. So you can literally see the ocean from where I'm at. So I want to set it that you can actually, you see the ocean down there?
Mm.
So I got, that's the Caribbean Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. So right from my farm, I'm on my farm. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to set it up that I could have that deck where you can sit and maybe have a nice little dinner and sip some natural wines that's made from the fruits that are grown here,
Anyway,
and or
since you are there
natural
in the
juices
farm, could you share
and
with us
fresh
some of
herb
the crop
teas,
that you plant there?
whether
Share
it's
with us.
lemongrass,
We're
whether
interested
it's
so that people can really
basil, whether
see
it's
what they are seeing in the background. We're
whatever.
sort of
Um,
curious of what is
we got
behind you.
papaya coming. These are guavas. They are fruiting right now, but they're pretty small.
Oh,
So that's what I'm saying. The similarities, and that is one of the reasons why I know we need to bridge that gap between Africa and the Caribbean, because it is very, very similar. Um, See, I'm going to show you.
oh man, we
Yes,
do a
and
lot with
in terms
cassava
of
too.
the nursery project, so I've started. I got some weeding to do, but these are some citrus. I've got strawberries in pots as well. Um, so this is like the nursery section. And now look at this. This is mangoes. This show you like mangoes being wasted, like literally.
Mm.
Like you see the ground. So this is why I'm saying, instead of just having a lot of these wasted, because like we feed them to the pigs. Imagine that. Like, so I need to be able to do things with these and also have people come and experience and taste these instead of they're wasted. Just come and take a tour and eat some while you're, taking a tour with us and learning about the different trees that we have. So this is the pomegranates,
Mm.
more mangoes. All of these are mangoes. They got a breadfruit tree in between here. We got noni. Um, I'm sure you guys should know about the noni fruit. No, it's not the noni.
Yep.
Um, Aki. That I don't know what you call it in Africa, but this is um very popular in Jamaica. When it opens, and you see it, let me pick this one because this one is ready. Let me show it to you. The Aki. This usually it's prepared. The Jamaicans kind of do it like you're gonna take the seeds out, and then there's a lining in inside that you want to take out, and then you can like do it like scrambled eggs. It has that kind of texture and that kind of flavor. So if you don't eat eggs, this is something that you can do. It adapts. It doesn't necessarily have a taste, but it adapts the flavor of sex, like kind of like tofu. So whatever your onions and your garlic and so on, it would adapt the flavors of things like that. But interestingly enough, there's a little trick to it. Like, okay, this is it before it opens up. Right? This is how it looks before it opens up. Now, when it's closed like this, there is a toxic gas that is inside. So you cannot really use it until it opens up naturally like this. And it opens up naturally like this. And by that time, that gas is released. So in the Caribbean, that's why maybe a lot of people don't necessarily use it because they're not familiar in terms of how to make use of it. But like I said, a lot of the Jamaicans, they're very much more familiar with it. But so this is what I'm talking about. In America, another reason for doing this, what I find is as I lived in America, and even before I went to America, I worked at a farm to table hotel. It was one of the
Wait a
first
minute.
that sought to
Wait a
do what
minute.
I'm
I have a
thinking of in terms of
curiosity.
marine agriculture
Don't
and
go
tourism.
anywhere. I want to throw
And
this curiosity to
I
Jay.
did this as a
Jay,
part
all
of
these
my
different fruits
activities. I
that
did the nursery
your
tour,
son
the
is
nursery
mentioning,
breakfast tour, and the
are
farm
they
tour. And
familiar
one of the
with
things
you?
I
This
noticed
mango,
as we
guava,
did a lot of these tours,
pawpaw,
me
and all
and
of them. Share with us. I'm
another
curious.
elder who helped to teach me a lot about St. Kitts on a whole, because he was an estate manager, so he knew a lot of the farms and estates and so on. But one of the things I noted was that a lot of people were unable to match the fruit to the plants because a lot of people have never really experienced being on a farm. Their relationship with their food is mostly from the supermarkets or from the farmers markets, but not necessarily being able to come on the farm. So sometimes, when they did visit and when we do took a tour, that you would see the amazement on their faces when they're like, oh, so that's how an okra tree looks, or that's how an eggplant tree looks, or that. And that made me realize that there's a lot of disconnect and a lot of ignorance, so to speak, where agriculture is concerned and food security is concerned, and the need for a lot more people to experience this. And even in more recent times, I find a lot more people are becoming more conscious and thinking about, grounding and getting in touch with nature and things like that. So I think activities like these that also fuels the educational component, as Jay, you know,
Wow, I see your son is raising someone. Anyway, you're saying you're going to take us a walk in the farm, but by the time Jay finish, you will take us a little bit walk there.
Well, I think one of the things, just Yasan, to what you just mentioned is important. It That disconnect is going to be, I think, the biggest part in your anyone's marketing efforts, right? That disconnect can lead to interest, and because they don't know. And I'll share with you a little anecdote. Coming from an island, we know what coconuts look like. And if you come from a tropical region and you're familiar with coconuts, you know what it looks like. You know what it tastes like. You know the effort it takes to get to the nut. What
Wow,
baffled
wow.
me as a kid when
Tell
I
me,
was
which
watching
ocean
some of
is that?
these shows on TV, I'll give you a prime example of that. I'm dating myself. I was watching
Wow.
reruns
Wow. You can see
of
that from your farm.
Gilligan's Island. And if you look at the coconut trees that were created, they're fake. On the Hollywood set, the coconuts are already husked, but they're on the tree. And this just proves to me the disconnect. When you go to the grocery store, right, you see the already husked coconut in the grocery store. And so the the minds of people say, "Oh, that's how you get the coconut." No, that's not. There's a
Mm.
husk that
I
goes
remember
around
that.
it that
This
you
makes me
have to
look like we're in
remove to
Africa
get
now.
to the nut. And so being from an island, we know this. And so we were laughing at this, especially we as kids, we saw this, right? Um and but that just shows it's a really poignant example of what Yasan was talking about, that disconnect. And if we can
And network
harness the
might be struggling a little
interest
bit, but we
in
can feel the energy.
understanding where your food comes from,
Beautiful.
right? Getting them to understand, look at the beauty of the trees, look at the fruits in its natural state. You're going to see the beauty in all of that. I think that can generate a lot of interest and a lot of tourism. Marketing will, I mean, just the pictures and video alone will speak for itself. If you if you just looked at what Yasan was doing, just by going out and showing the fruits literally in the field, you're going to see that people are going to be fascinated by some of those things. And then what more to be actually in the field picking a fruit right off of the tree or from the shrubs, right? It's for some who grew up in the city, it's a very visceral experience, right? So, man, look at all bananas, plantains. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I can see. Oh,
So,
wow.
well, I was just showing you some bananas, and these are avocados. Um, these are pigeon peas. So there's a lot of things that probably are common in Africa that you definitely will
Mm.
see around. This
Ah.
is moringa, the
So
superfood,
do you eat it like that, or do you need to do
famous
anything before you
moringa.
can eat it?
This is the jackfruit. It's not bearing, but there's a bigger one. I've got a bigger tree on the other side that it bears fruits that are up to even 80 pounds. Now the jackfruit is very widely used in Jamaica, but in modern times, I've noted that it is widely used in a lot of vegan restaurants as an alternative um, alternative to meat. Um, and it's very expensive. But you can make a juice with it. You can make a drink with it. It's from the breadfruit family, so it's similar to the bread nut. The skin looks like the bread nut, but it grows much huger than the bread nut. Like I said, one fruit can weigh up to 80 pounds of the jackfruit. And the sourshops, well, I harvested about 4 sourshops from this yesterday. Okay, well, this one is not red. Well, it's full, so I can pick this one. This one is not ripe yet, but you can, its color is turning. Like so, like if you pick this and I put it up, in a couple of days, it should be ready to eat. And so, this is what I have around me. It's just, you know, nature. And like I was telling you now, in terms of on the other side
Thank
now,
you so much for that. Yeah, yeah.
so this is what I'm talking about in terms of the fusion of farm to table and agrotourism in that concept. So on this side, more on that side is the orchard, and now there's a little mini superette and bar where now the stuff that's grown here and all of the other fruits, I want to be able to make the other juices and make the other value-added products, whether it's jams, tea bags, whatever it is that could be sold on that side. There's the kitchen where we can do whether it's the veggie burgers or the various different pastries and smoothie blends and all that. So when you finish a tour, you can get a chance also to sample some of whether the fruits in the raw state or also the value-added products. There's a little um, like stand there where we can put the fruits in, and also I'll have some plants showcased there so that folks can also stop and buy a plant if they want to. So all that is a part of as we're talking about in terms of the agro-tourism. Um, Here, like see, like under this tree would kind of eventually be like a space where we could whether have a little gathering with chairs, you can have a little seating because it's going to be shaded all day. As you can see, I got a lot of raking and a lot of stuff to do. I just got in, and so as I said, I'm in the state of preparing and getting it set up. But this is kind of what it's going to look like, and then we can probably have a little area here where you can clean up and put like a, a, a 3 stones and cooking area where you can cook on the outside with your wood as we would do back in the day. And just put a few stones and then put the clay pot on and you cook right out here in nature and just have a little because this is how we grew up, the granny, the grandma, the
We see what your son is sharing with us there. What is demonstrating in the farm. Now, the question for you is, how do we translate this into local development? I mean, how can agribusiness or actually agritourism lead to local development? How do you explain that?
Well, I think one of the things, just Yasan, what you just mentioned is important. It That disconnect is going to be, I think, the biggest part in anyone's marketing efforts, right? That disconnect can lead to interest, and because they don't know. And I'll share with you a little anecdote. Coming from an island, we know what coconuts look like. And if you come from a tropical region and you're familiar with coconuts, you know what it looks like. You know what it tastes like. You know the effort it takes to get to the nut. What baffled me as a kid when I was watching some of these shows on TV, I'll give you a prime example of that. I'm dating myself. I was watching reruns of Gilligan's Island. And if you look at the coconut trees that were created, they're fake. On the Hollywood set, the coconuts are already husked, but they're on the tree. And this just proves to me the disconnect. When you go to the grocery store, right, you see the already husked coconut in the grocery store. And so the the minds of people say, oh, that's how you get the coconut. No, that's not. There's a husk that goes around it that you have to remove to get to the nut. And so being from an island, we know this. And so we were laughing at this, especially me as kids, we saw this, right? Um, and but that just shows it's a really poignant example of what Yasan was talking about, that disconnect. And if we can harness the interest in understanding where your food comes from, right? Getting them to understand, look at the beauty of the trees, look at the fruits in its natural state. You're going to see the beauty in all of that. I think that can generate a lot of interest and a lot of tourism. Marketing just the pictures and video alone will speak for itself. If you if you just looked at what Yasan was doing, just by going out and showing the fruits literally in the field, you're going to see that people are going to be fascinated by some of those things. And then what more to be actually in the field picking a fruit right off of the tree or from the shrubs, right? It's for some who grew up in the city, it's a very visceral experience, right?
Wow.
So,
You
man,
see,
look at all
banana.
bananas,
That is
plantains.
plantain.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Show me more of that. Yes, son, are you there? Tell us
uh,
something there. What are you? What is happening there?
So, well, I was just showing you some bananas, and these are avocados. Um, these are pigeon peas. So there's a lot of things that probably are common in Africa that you
I remember
definitely
that. I remember that
will
absolutely.
see around. Um, this is moringa,
The famous moringa.
the superfood, famous moringa. This is the jackfruit. It's not bearing, but there's a bigger one. I've got a bigger tree on the other side that it bears fruits that are up to even 80 pounds. Now the jackfruit is very widely used in Jamaica, but in modern times I've noted that it is widely used in a lot of vegan restaurants as an alternative meat, um, alternative to meat. Um, and it's very expensive. But you can make a juice with it. You can make a drink with it. It's from the breadfruit family, so it's similar to the bread nut. The skin looks like the bread nut, but it grows much huger than the bread nut. Like I said, one fruit can weigh up to 80 pounds of the jackfruit. And the sourshops, well, I harvested about 4 sourshops from this yesterday. Okay, well, this one is not red. Well, it's full, so I can pick this one. This one is not ripe yet, but you can, this color is turning. Like so, like if you pick this and I put it up, in a couple of days, it should be ready to eat. And so, this is what I have around me. It's just, you know, nature. And like I was telling you now, in terms of on the other side now, so this is what I'm talking about in terms of the fusion of farm to table and agrotourism in that concept. So on this side, more on that side is the orchard, and now there's a little mini superette and bar where now the stuff that's grown here and all of the other fruits, I want to be able to make the other juices and make the other um, value-added products, whether it's jams, tea bags, whatever it is that could be sold on that side. There's the kitchen where we can do whether it's the veggie burgers or the various different pastries and smoothie blends and all that. So when you finish a tour, you can get a chance also to sample some of whether the fruits in the raw state or also the value-added products. There's a little um, like stand there where we can put the fruits in, and also I'll have some plants showcased there so that folks can also stop and buy a plant if they want to. So all that is a part of as we're talking about in terms of the agro-tourism. Um, Here, like see, like under this tree would kind of eventually be like a space where we could whether have a little gathering with chairs, you can have a little seating because it's going to be shaded all day. As you can see, I got a lot of raking and a lot of stuff to do. I just got in, and so as I said, I'm in the state of preparing and getting it set up. But this is kind of what it's going to look like, and then we can probably have a little area here where you can clean up and put like a, a, a 3 stones and cooking area where you can cook on the outside with your wood as we would do back in the day. And just put a few stones and then put the clay pot on and you cook right out here in nature and just have a little because this is how we grew up. The granny, the grandma, the mother, the children would just be sitting and somebody's bringing the shells, the coconut shells or the pieces of wood, and somebody's going to bring the water and somebody's going to bring whatever ingredients you're picking from the garden, whether it's sweet potatoes, whether it's yams, whether it's cassava, and they prepare it and they have a conversation. And so that family unity and togetherness, you get to share the stories because the grandma gets to talk to so this is kind of what I want to be able to share as we grew up. Now, um, I'm talking all plants. Even though I don't eat meat, I still want to be able to have a little bit of that experience as well. So I have my goat is tied out on the outside. I'm gonna get a few chickens also, and I also have two little piglets inside here. That's help me with the waste mangoes and so everything is a cycle, you know. So I haven't picked up some of these mangoes, but then they're also fed to the pigs, and I guess eventually that could be some food for somebody later on. But that's kind of a bit of the experience I'm sharing with you. That house that you're seeing here, this used to be my grandfather's house, and it's funny. I kept it here on the property, um, moved it from the other side, and I've kept it for a number of reasons: sentimentality, and the fact that this house, like I'm saying, it was my grandfather's house, and as old as it looks, right, the roof doesn't leak. It has never leaked, and it has survived almost all of the hurricanes that have passed through these parts. Name it, because I'm saying my grandfather. I'm not saying my father. I'm saying my grandfather. And this house has survived. So my thinking is, I'm gonna try to I'm gonna do some renovation as much as I can and add around it and keep the story about it. So I probably it might be used maybe as like a bar area or something, like add some things onto it to but it's just I've kept it for the story. And the other part too is when I got to adulthood and I started to, as we would say in the Caribbean, you start to force man and you want to be on your own. Um, and I started, well, I kind of got into, you could say, Rastafari life, so to speak. And, my mom wasn't really into that and the smoking side of it and all that. So that was my little shanty when I kind of moved on my own and started to cook for myself and do my little thing. So that's the other part of the sentimentality,
So,
why I
so,
still
so
have
you mean
kept it as
you
well.
were going there
So
to hide and smoke and do your Rastafarian life or something?
yes, I couldn't be that around them, nice Christian people and so on, to go to church every Sunday and all that. So that was my, like, yeah, you want to be a man, okay, you go and be there and do your thing. But it was in the same yard though. But but we never had any real issues for it, but I just know that they were not for it, and I would not have been able to live that way in the house that they were living in. So in order for me to be me, then I had to do that. And so over the years we have worked that out, and we live pretty good. Today we don't have those sort of challenges or issues in terms of I accept them for who they are, they accept me for who I am, and my beliefs and my whatever it is. And we have our little debates like everybody, and that's about it, and that's how it should be. Respect each other for whatever religious beliefs you have, or whatever concepts you believe in, and that's how I live. I try to learn. I wouldn't criticize whatever it is that you accept or believe, but I try to learn because I'm very much open to learning, about various different religions. I consider myself more spiritual than religious, so I don't necessarily see religion as the end all. Religion for me is like more like a vehicle that should lead you to spirituality, which should be the ultimate goal. So for me, I don't really, you know, get upset with anybody for whatever they
Thank you so
may
much.
believe in. I actually may
Thank
just
you so much for that. Now, Jay, I want to bring you in again to talk about the connection because we see what your son is talking about now. This connection to the land, the connection to his grandfather. He's not really talking about his father, like he pointed out. He's talking about the connection to his grandfather, and he made sure that place is reserved, and so that he is able to reflect on what have happened there or what is happening there when he was still younger. What role do you think that might play in tourism marketing or being able to connect to the past? What do you say about that?
Oh my gosh. So first off, um, I want to say every time he pans the camera around, I feel like I'm at home. Um, these are the things that I would see in what we would call a ranch on Guam. Um, my grandfather, he had his main house, and then he had a little plot of land, not even a not even an acre's worth of land, and he would cultivate that land. And he had a shed, and Today we would call it unplugging or camping or glamping. But he lived a very simple life. He was from the Philippines and he moved to Guam and married my grandmother. And so he would unplug. He would just go take his little transistor radio, listen to the music, but he would cook over an open fire. He would cultivate the fruits. He would make food over that open fire and just enjoy his time with my grandmother away from away from the kids. They come from a big family, 12 kids. So I don't blame him for wanting to go to the ranch and farm fruits and things. And so it just brought me back. And I think what he's doing is something, when we talk about conservation, I know he was talking about the shed or the home that his grandfather built, but when we look at it, right, it can bring back memories for some of us who are not from the island, from a different island. It can bring up memories even from people who are from the city. Oh, my grandfather built his home, and now I understand why Yasan has such an affinity for it, you know. And so sharing in these stories is important. It passes down the legacy. Listen to him, Yasan, talk about his grandfather. It passes down that legacy, that history. This home has survived countless hurricanes, right? And for me, it jogged the memory for me. Here living in Alabama, my father came to visit me and we built onto my home that was built in Alabama a porch. And Obehi, I don't know if you remember, but I survived a tornado in Alabama. Well, let me tell you, my entire home was destroyed. That porch, it survived. It moved maybe a couple of yards away, but it survived. That ingenuity, that island ingenuity of surviving hurricanes, right? Surviving typhoons from where I'm from, that basically was brought back into my mind as I watched his son talk fondly about his grandfather's home. And so when we are able to see, feel, really truly connect to those stories, these are the things I think that allow us to gain better perspective, especially as a tourist, as a visitor to someone's homeland. And so I think, it's not just about conservation, it's about education. I talked a little bit about that. And education comes from great storytelling. And the storytelling, if you have something that's tangible when we're talking about a story, it just brings it home. And for me, I was brought home. And I continue to be brought home every time I see your son. Pan that camera around and I see more and more of the fruit trees.
Thank you so much for that. I really love that. Of course, we're going back to your son again. Meanwhile, I want to thank you, Dr. Kechi, for joining us. But anyway, wait a little second. We are coming to you. Your son is walking us around in his farm, and we really enjoy the moment that we are having a good time. We have been able to see a lot of crops that we would think these crops are only available in Africa. Talking of mango, talking of avocado, talking of all these different crops that we grew up and we enjoy. So he's basically showing us in the farm right now as we talk about agritourism. This, of course, we are talking about what is happening in the Caribbean now, but we will soon be talking about also how do we leverage agritourism in Africa. Uh, anyway, let's return to Yason. Yason, take us around again. We are curious of what you are seeing that we are not hearing you say anything about. Please share with us.
Okay, so these are in Jamaica, they're called June plums, but we call them golden apples. Um, they're a fruit that when you eat them on the seed is sort of like a sea urchin. Um, like have these spikes like I think it's a rambutan, the outside of the rambutan. Um, but they're very sweet when ripe, and they turn a bit yellow usually when ripe. That's the tree here. It grows very huge and tall like this. Um, so we got cactus. I guess you guys should be familiar with the cactus. Here in the Caribbean, it's used for a number of things. It's used to wash here. Some people they cook the young leaves. They would trim them and cook them in some dishes. And some of us, like me, who in the US, I learned about the little fruits that they grow, like this one here, but it's not ready yet. Where is it? This little fruit here. So this usually turns red, and then when it's red, you can peel the skin off and you can eat the inside. It's very tasty and delicious and nutritious. But we got a combination of things here. I need to transplant some of these here, but this is a young June plum. This is a sugar apple. I think there should be a bigger tree with fruits on it, but I am not sure exactly where that is. I'll have to go and look for that. But this is the cinnamon tree. This we use to make tea and um, a number of things. Add to drinks or beverages like sarsaparilla and other root drinks that we make in the Caribbean. Um, this is the jamun. I think it's called by something else somewhere else, but it's sort of like black currant. It bears a fruit that's very tart when ripe. In terms of if it's not ripe properly, it kind of like ties up your tongue, but it makes a very good beverage, a very good juice, and a very good wine. The wine is off the chains. Trust me. Um, this big tree here is. I don't think it has any more fruits on, but it was filled with fruits a couple of weeks ago. But it's the pomerat, or they call it something else. It looks very similar to the wax apple. There's a name I can't remember. It's very popular in Jamaica as well. It's red with a seed on the inside, very soft. Similar to, if you know the wax apple, it's very similar to the wax apple. Where we got more avocados here, more pomegranates. Um, this is five fingers, star fruit, star apple. Um, we got some passion fruits running on the fence line here as well. Um, so yeah, yes, I find the passion fruit, your ripe one. Yeah, so it's just what we want to be able to share. We got pineapples, we got lemongrass. This is a young tamarind tree going up here. Lemon, the leaf of life. I don't know if you guys, when we were small, we used to write the name of the girl that we like, and we put it in a book, and we say if it grows, then that means our relationship would grow. But one of the plants, sort of the plants that it's a very very valuable medicinally. I know my grandmother who used to use this. If she got her feet damaged or anything, this is something that she would put on the outside. But it's one of the few plants that grows from the leaf, because you can literally take one of these leaves and put it in a book, and it starts growing many little plants from each one of these little grooves on the leaf. And I guess maybe that's why it's called a leaf of life, because it doesn't die. Technically, it's very hard to plant, or it does whatever it needs to do to multiply and keep itself going. But it's a very, very valuable medicinal plant. Um, in here we got, like I said, I'm in the process of weeding up because I just got back here to the Caribbean this week, but it's just for me now to take over from where my mom was really pushing to help me with this. So I started weeding out at least the chives. All right, we got some chives here. So this whole area is chives, and then we got some pineapples inside here, but it needs weeding out. Right, the cassava inside here,
The famous
some
cassava.
this is the pepper and bell peppers, um, and yeah, guavas or guinea. I was pointing out. I don't know what you call this in Africa, but we call it guinea in the Caribbean.
Ah, okay, that's interesting.
Can you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it?
yeah. That's interesting. That okay, okay. No,
So what do you guys
I'm trying to see it.
when you bite it? I'm gonna bite one so you can kind of see what the inside looks like.
Let's see your mouth as you bite it. I'm joking. So we don't see very well.
Oh,
Okay. I don't.
so yeah, it's
Hmm.
a soft kind thing that with a big seed on the inside. So you're gonna like suck off that slimy thing, and there's like a kind of sweet, sour sweet sort of juice that you get from it. So we call it guinea. Some people say skinny. Even as far as Barbados, they call it in Barbados they call it aki. But we know it as guinea or skinny. But it's a nice food. You can make a nice drink, and it's a nice like this. This is something that in the Caribbean, like during the summer like this, you can't have enough of this. Like little children would be on the roadside selling this. They pick it, but in the bunches, and you know, anybody who's from like St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean, they'll go for this. So people visiting here, they would love to just visit here and be able to get a bunch of guinea while they're taking the tour on the farm here. And it's things like this I want to be able to share with the rest of the world, where you can get it fresh from the tree, not just harvested and, presented on a table for you, but fresh from the tree, be able to feel this tropical breeze. You can see the trees are swaying, and I'm sure you could hear the wind in the background because today's kind of like a windy day, extra windy day to me actually.
All
Um,
right.
but
Right.
this,
So you see, we can never really get enough of that. Eh? We can never really get enough of that. It's so interesting. Because we usually have here. So today you give us the privilege of able to see what is happening inside your farm and also the passion. You just returned from the United States and you are in your farm and we can really feel the passion as we move around, giving all this possibility of see those things. This is really valuable. I appreciate what you're doing with us today.
yeah, well, I'm giving you the virtual tour. I'm hoping that it encourages you to help us to book that flight with, all the people from Guam. I want to be able to have, a whole chartered flight from Nigeria, a whole chartered flight from Ghana. Dr. Aikeche, let's get this going. I'll just get the accommodation and there are a couple of other farms that we can tour along with this and be able to share similar experiences. You can maybe do one that you go if there's the folks who love the sea. You can go out and experience, the way the fishermen do it. If you're into beekeeping, we can hook you up with people who have apiaries and who are into beekeeping, and you could get that experience. So I want to be able to really give you the opportunity. So it's not just for me. I'm not just looking for you to come and visit my farm alone, but I want you to be able to experience different aspects of, agriculture, agrotourism, while you're spending the time with us and getting to involve yourself in it because we want you to be able to come out in the mornings and help pick up some of the fruits as well. And if you're going to make certain products, if you want to learn to make the jam or you want to learn to make how to make the juices are made and so on, so you can be involved in the process if you want to. So we wanted to be able to have educational, hands-on, experience with what it is. So when you leave with a whole new energy, a whole new feeling that you could go back and trying out new recipes and trying out new things that maybe you see in the store that you used to pass over, but now you went to the Caribbean, you taste them. So now, hey, now I see them in the store, I know what they taste like, so I can pick them up now. Things like that.
Thank you so much for that. Now let's hear what Dr. Kechi have to say about this. Dr. Kechi, can you hear us? Yeah. So I was asking you, what is your take on what you have seen your son share? Because we are looking at agritourism, how what we are seeing in the farm can lead to local development in our area. Because of course, looking at what your son is sharing, there we can already see how this is going to bring a development in Sekes and Neve. But what if this could be happening also in Enugu? What if it could be happening in Aba? where people are going to the farm, but they're also letting people understand how they translate the cassava to pounded yam, to fufu, to creating okra, cultivating it, and taking it to the plate. Could we even imagine that? Can we talk about that? What do you say?
I can, I've always known the Caribbeans as Africans, and looking at the position of the Caribbean islands, they are around the southern hemisphere, if I'm not mistaken. They are not in the northern hemisphere like the US, the Northern American region. So most of the crops that grow in the tropics also thrive there. So I saw a lot of similarities, like the flower that leaf. I saw that flower. I've forgotten the name. I used to know the botanical names of these plants, but when you plant them, um, when you pluck the leaf and put it on the soil, it grows. So I overheard the son mention that because he knows that I should have the idea. So anyway, that's part of it. So I'm very happy to see he has what he has done. Yeah, which um, um, tells me that he's serious minded and he knows what he's doing. And now, opportunity for local development. Of course, looking at the areas or aspects of local development, it touches on how what we have seen, crop, how agriculture is translating to unlocking economic transformation, growth of the economy, how it is also meeting all the areas of demand. Maybe is it for food demand? Is it for industrial demand? Yeah, so those products from agriculture. Yeah, so we have seen a lot, and some of those, even the pharmaceutical industries can benefit from it. So those are the areas that these local re, um, resources, if I am permitted to use that word. So many African nations, they rely on agriculture to grow their economy through the gross domestic product, which is a measure of economic growth, creating of jobs for people, especially in the rural areas. So we are talking about local economy. So it tells us that why agriculture is important. In looking at um, how communities can be developed through their agricultural resources, especially from tourism, because our center has always been tourism for a while. So then how can we plant hotels in such areas, places where we can have an integrated tourism sector where everything is provided, and that region can earn a lot of can generate income for them to run. This is real. This is not a fairy tale. It is real. It has come to be. So I wish to enjoin every one of us to to begin to see agriculture as a business, as a resource that will drive development. So that Caribbean island is very rich, just like in African scenario. So anyway,
All right.
let me just
Okay, I have a
stop
question for you
stop there.
there, Dr. Kishi, while you're still there. Is there any
Okay.
comparison we can make? You see, um, sometimes we don't say it, but there is a huge potential in Africa. Okay, let me not say Africa in general, even though Africa in general is full of this potential in terms of tourism. Let's say Nigeria, for example, because you and I are both coming from Nigeria, and no matter the kind of education we might have, we know Nigeria better than any other country. Nigeria is full of opportunity from the point of view of agriculture and tourism. Where do you think maybe we should focus on more? Okay, let me tell you, I will be calling you in the coming weeks, no? Because we are activating a conversation on the cassava again. So there is an event that we are organizing towards this September. So there are some people that are interested in agriculture. So we are going to be bringing that in because anytime I have opportunity here, you need to talk. I usually introduce them to the concept of cassava so that sometimes people are not calling me to talk about cassava because they hear me talk about it. Many people don't even have an idea of what cassava is. Yet, Nigeria as a country, is producing up to 60 million metric tons of cassava annual. That is not a small production. Could we say that as a country or as regions or as states in Nigeria, whether you are looking at Lagos, Enugu, looking at Kano, looking at Benin, Edo, we could also activate agri-tourism where we take people into, like what your son is doing, we take people into the farm. We eventually come to introduce our students into the concept of developing agriculture as a business, not just as a buy thing, something that you look from a distance. We teach them how to enjoy it. Your son is using internet in the farm. I think we can also do the same in Africa. I'm imagining that. What do you think?
Of course, that is um, e- like talking about using of internet in the farm is not even the thing now because most of the areas, most of the farmlands are using internet. But what we are talking about is safety. What about safety? Safety of the people is very important. Safety of the farmers, because safety is also very important also. Because how can you go to the farm and you're afraid of cultivating the soil in the farm because of insurgency issues? Yes, so this is a welcome initiative. I'm, I'm, I must say, is a welcome initiative in the sense that this is an opportunity to network, is an opportunity to come together. People who have the idea, who have the knowledge, people who know how to translate um, discussions, who know how to translate some of these advantages or benefits that regions have, and then to utilize it in solving the problem, the challenges of an economy, society's needs. Now, lots of regions do not even have peace issues. So how can we translate it to solving the problem of peace? Now, the areas people are lacking food, how do we also utilize the resources that we have to unlock food security? So it is very, very vital. This discussion is very vital. It's very important. So how do we do all these things? It's very important. And if we don't begin to amplify that discussion, if we don't begin to look at how to improve on maybe the practices of agriculture, because we need to improve also the capacity of all these things. You can see the land that we saw. The plants are well seasonal as well, but why not devoting some of those lands to cultivating some rich crops? Now we will see food, they're very important. And then in those regions where there are no food, how do we transport them? How do we make it available? How do young people come in? Then also promoting climate smart agriculture can come in as well.
I'm online in a
Diversifying crops and all that. Some of these things can also work in the tourism sector. You know that, because when tourists travel, some of them may not see those
okay. That is my work. I need the back, so it's okay.
children, like I told you. about the training, the program that the UK government had for their children. They noticed that
Okay.
young people do not do agriculture again, and in the UK they depend more on what, on importation. The future is in Africa, and when you look at the population, the future of the
Exactly.
population is in Africa. Now we are
Uh,
now seeing the farmlands, those areas. You can see that
exactly. Oh, you
even that
connected to
region
the main house.
is fertile.
Oh,
Yes,
you connected
it's fertile. It's African
to the
soil.
main house.
If you see African soil, you know.
Ah, okay.
If you see
Okay,
soil that
better.
has
So that
been
one, yeah,
degraded or
I'm
injected
moving
with
on having
all
so
these
that case more
chemicals
relation.
and all that GMOs, you also know. So we are talking about also protecting our reserves, because we will still come back to
Okay.
service. This is a time
Okay. That is fine.
that we need to work
Okay.
with the knowledge that we have been gathering all this while. We need to put our
Okay.
knowledge in action. We need to use whatever that we are seeing to empower other people. That, okay, like somebody like Jay can come in and collaborate with them, and we will guide, we will provide guidance, and there will be sincerity and fair play in the collaboration. That is how and what is supposed to look like,
Okay.
so that it will not
Really
look
color.
like I want to collaborate and somebody
Yeah,
is
okay,
afraid
understand.
of collaborating with the other
Okay,
person
thank you, sir.
because they heard people from this
Yes,
region,
so I mean, sure, I cover that the door, so.
you know, they are not easy to work with, or maybe they have some sinister
Oh, yeah.
motives, or maybe
Okay,
there's
all right.
insecurity. You know, a
Thank
lot
you,
of
sir.
farms were attacked. So, and this is a major challenge. So, I was doing an interview recently. You know, I think I even shared an aspect of that with you. Anyway, aside that, I was asked to comment on the issues, to elaborate on some of the issues that are facing agriculture. And these are real-time issues. And if these things are not handled, we are having a lot of insecurity insecurity issues in the farm, and flood issues. There were so many floods. Now, some of those issues, how can we yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, Obehi. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that, Dr. Kichi. All right. I see, Jay, you raise your hand. Please say something about the conversation. I'm sure you definitely have something to say, whether based on what Dr. Kichi has said or what your son has said and showed before. What is your reaction?
Sure. Okay. I think, you know, considering what Dr. Ikeji just talked about, and of course, Yasan. Um, so cottage industries, I think, are very important to support. And if we don't do that, we're losing out on a lot of opportunities. Um, there's a tendency, I think, for especially people and businesses in tourism, if they're entrenched and they're large corporations, they see little operations, mom and pop operations, and cottage industries as they are large businesses because there's a lot of money in that. They lobby governments to stay ahead of the game, so to speak. And so the tendency we see, especially in the tourism industry, when you have corporate leaders entrenched for so many years in that industry, they try to push out the little guys. They try to push out those cottage industries. And I think there's an opportunity that these companies are missing out on in not partnering with these mom and pop or cottage industry uh, business partners, potential business partners. You're losing that opportunity to connect with the local people and to see the resources really right at your fingertips rather than from behind a bus window, rather than from a hotel window. If you're able to be a part of the community, at least for a little bit of time, you know, enjoying what Yasan was talking about, that opportunity to sit with grandma in front of a fire, roasting some yams, placing some butter on it. I'm sorry, I'm getting really I'm getting really hungry, but um, you know, I joke a little bit, but I really think the seriousness is that the tendency for these governments and for these multinational and maybe even huge corporations to to stop local industry, to stop cottage industries from flourishing is backwards. I think the time now is to now recognize the local people. Not, and you know, we were talking about colonialism earlier. I think that that continues to be seen where you have these outside corporations in charge of these tourism buckets, right? So if we're able to really engage the local community, you're going to see, I think, an exponential rise in better experiences for your visitors. They're going to see the opportunity that we as local people have seen for our lifetimes, that getting back to nature, being one with the land, sharing in the fruits, literally in the fruits of our labor, is going to be a much better experience than to see it from behind a window in your hotel.
Thank you so much for that. And that is so true. The intention is for us to be able to better connect to our source, to our land, to where we live, to the ancestors, those who have been here before us. That is what I was also sort of alluding to before, looking at the case of the Niger Delta, looking at the philosophy of Kensaro Wiwa, who was simply telling the Nigerian government and the Share BP that we needed to respect our land because our life depends on this land. In fact, I remember one time I was bringing out this issue to an associate professor I was interviewing from the US, and he was telling me, no, it's not that our life depends on this land. Our life is literally this land. By protecting this land, we are protecting ourselves. That was what Kensarabewa actually stood for, and that was what he died for. So I am saying that it is important that we understand this basic arithmetic of life, that our life depends on this land. We are this land. We need to have a relationship that is mutual. We should never destroy the land because we want to develop. We should learn to help people to connect again. See, I'm having a lot of value from what your son was sharing. You could see the connection that he had. Any person who have ever planted and harvested have a different kind of relationship to the land. Because what happened there? What happened is that you have a trust in the nature, in that you put a seed in the ground. That seed dies and it rises again. Now you go there, whether it is after 3 months or after 1 year to harvest it, you naturally learn to trust this land even more. This is vitally important, that we learn to have a relationship with our land, and this lead to development. It's fundamentally important. So I want to thank all of you for the time that we have spent here. And of course, I need to ask if maybe there is a final word that you might want to say to be able to conclude the conversation. And again, this is important because you want to use this moment to also connect to the people, let them know how they can reach out to you. If you have anything that you are selling or anything that you are offering, This is a moment to do that as you conclude this conversation. So let's pass the mic first to Jay, because Jay, you're already there. So what is your final thought, and tell the people how to reach out to you?
Well, I think one thing is for certain. I miss home thanks to Yasan, and showing us um, his farm there. But that to me is really indicative of what he's trying to accomplish, showing people around the property and really being able to enjoy the fruits of that labor that he created. And it, we were talking about how people don't recognize the trees where they come from, these fruits that we see in the grocery stores. And I think if we build upon that, share that story, I think a lot of people will actually be interested, and we will see an uptick in government and corporations partnering with mom and pop operations and cottage industry individuals. I think that's important. Getting back to the land and the local resources and putting back into the land and the local resources by supporting that. And we have to share that story on a global level so that we don't deplete the resources that we all depend on. That's the big story that we've shared today. And I think Yasan did it very poetically by sharing the video that he had. And as far as the work that I do, I help people share their stories so that they can help themselves, right? And so right now I have a book out, it's on Amazon. It's The Rules of Engagement in Storytelling. The Rules of Engagement in Storytelling is a 10-step process of being able to help share your story with the rest of the world. And if you need that help, I'm also available on LinkedIn. You can find me, Jay Pasqua, the storytelling strategist. So thank you for allowing me to be here, Obey, and for being a part of this panel and for sharing in my insights and for bringing me back to my youth through the nostalgia of the video that Yasan has shared with us today.
Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate that. I really do. And of course, we are grateful to Yason for this sharing, for this important moment that he shared with us. So, Yason, we are grateful to you. What is your final take here? Let the people know how they can also support this your project. So, briefly conclude this conversation from your end.
Yes, and unfortunately, I'll have to end without the visual. I don't know what happened today. I've been having a little bit of difficulty with the camera, so please, folks who are listening and viewing, I apologize for that. But in wrapping up, I must say that this was a very, very fruitful conversation, and I'm really grateful that I got the opportunity to showcase a bit of the farm and to be able to share the vision and the mission behind the projects, because also as you spoke about continuity, the 10,000 fruit tree orchard project speaks to that. And one of the ways that folks can contribute is I've opted to uh, have a open donation, so you can donate $10 US per plant, and we will tag that plant and label it so that you can also follow it, because even though I'm doing 10,000, I don't know where in the Caribbean some of these plants may end up, because if governments come on board and support, like Jay is suggesting, because I'm hoping that governments and other investors and so on could invest more in these mom and pop and, cottage type style projects. And like I said, this one is just like a miniature version of some others that I have on a more um, even greater touristic um, environs. Like I would have suggested to you, Obi, that there is one or two, like there were farmer hotels, boutique hotels on St. Kitts and Nevis that I want to be able to renovate in that style as well, with that agro base tourism concept, with the value-added products being some of the main features of that, and showing how it can generate revenue for itself and empower young people and create job opportunities and new areas for them to become agripreneurs themselves and be a part of the whole food sovereignty um, crisis and community development overall. So they're going to be agro business based community development projects. So this is just like a small version of what it could look like, and I want people to be able to see it. So in terms of reaching out, I mean, you can just Google Yasan Tafara. You'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, and WhatsApp. You can do 1-869-665-8459. So that's 1-869-665-8459, or 1-559-541-2758. We're really looking forward to folks who are going to be coming home for Culturama to visit for the festivities. And like we are planning, Obi, in terms of the one, diasporian, we are also seeking to book packages for folks who are visiting from Africa, because we're seeking to really make that Africa to Caribbean connections. So we want to be able to continue to encourage folks to think of the Caribbean. You are in Africa, think of the Caribbean as your next, vacation. You don't have to go to Europe. You don't have to go to any other place. We are going to work on really seeking to get direct flights out of there, and we want to be able to create opportunities for trade and educational exchanges and tourist exchanges and stuff like that. So that's basically the mindset in terms of what I'm seeking to do. And so if you're interested in visiting the Caribbean, we can help you arrange that. We can help to get transportation, other activities while you're here, and a place to stay, car rentals. We will definitely accommodate you.
Thank you so.
So thank you for the opportunity, Obi, and thank you, Dr. Aikichi and Jay. We definitely have to connect, and we really have to make this a reality. Africa and the Caribbean, and even the others who are in the indigenous countries like JR. We definitely have to.
Thank you so much, Jay. We appreciate that. So, Dr. Kichi, how do you conclude the conversation? What is your final thought here?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was sharing something, on the Farmers Organization for Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific. So this is a program which has been running for a while, and the program is on increasing incomes and livelihood, food and nutritional security, safety of organized smallholders and family farmers in Africa and Caribbean. So this is an initiative which tells us that Africa and the Caribbeans are together. My talk on the subject. Now, in both Africa and the Caribbean, local development through agriculture requires a holistic approach. So, and the approach I have always recommended can be found embedded in the brain reengineering aspect, because it addresses both economic, social, and environmental aspects. So strengthening organizations is not just for farmers. Of course, we are talking about tourism also. So remember, this is more like a holistic thing. So farmers must be there. We must have representatives from the tourist or tourism sector. Now, they will help to improve access to markets and technology. It will also help to promote sustainable practices and foster regional collaboration. We are talking about the regions, maybe Caribbean region, African region, Pacific region, and the other areas as well. So because they are key to achieving this sustainable and inclusive agricultural development. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kichi. I appreciate the time that you spent here. And of course, for all of you for having make this an important conversation today. Jay, I thank you so much for your sharing. And of course, I thank you also, your son, for this important talk that you gave us today. This actually make it very beautiful. I intend to do this more again so that from time to time we might bring in people to share what is happening in their farm because it gives you a different dimension. I remember I've done a couple of interviews like this where I've actually told the farmer to take the camera into their farm and just show me what is happening there. It has been lovely as you see the color shining, see the fruits, and see the activity in the farm. Because I think that's really the next frontier in the conversation, so that people can see that it's not just about it's not just about it's not just what is happening in the mind. It's also what is happening in front of you. Because the people talking about agriculture, they are actually practicing it. And it's called agricultural practices because it's something that you practice. Because for all of you that have heard what Dr. Kichi said, and what, of course, what all the different speakers here said, we are encouraging you to take action. Action is the most important thing. If you don't take action, it will be like yesterday. If you want it to change, take action. Action is what changes the thing. So if this is your first time here, I encourage you to start by subscribing to this YouTube channel. Make a comment. Let us know what you think about the conversation. And of course, join us again because every 40 days we are here bringing in different conversation about agri-tourism and agri-tourism, of course, all that have to do with food and storytelling and things related to